Hello and thank you for joining us on the Capitol Report on NTD Television. I'm your host, Steve Lance. Here's a look at some of the stories we've been covering for you today. In the nation's capital today, activists held a peace walk to observe Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Many tell us they're encouraged by Dr. King's legacy of unity and peace. A powerful winter storm ripped through the East Coast over the weekend, leaving over 200,000 homes and businesses without power. Thousands of flights were canceled or delayed. Last week, the Supreme Court handed a major victory to businesses that were set to start enforcing President Biden's vaccine mandates on employees. But now many Americans are still feeling the effects of the mandate culture that has been created. Today in the nation's capital, people rallied together to honor Martin Luther King Jr. The civil rights leader is remembered and honored as a man who championed unity. NTD's Melina Wisecup brings us a look at how the holiday was observed in Washington, D.C.
We're here in the nation's capital celebrating MLK Day with the Peace Walk to symbolize Martin Luther King Jr.'s nonviolent activism. Some of these walkers tell us their favorite part of his legacy is the unity he brought to our nation.
We judge people not by the color of their skin, but by their
character.
We see people united across races, across incomes. That's what it takes. We just have to build on it. My favorite part of Dr. King's legacy is that he challenged even his friends, fellow ministers, fellow progressives to be better, to be more true to the causes we speak of, and to make sure we continue to give our all to fight for equity.
Dr. King laid the foundation for civil rights and an end to racial segregation.
And that specific message was among the most integral part for me.
What do you love most about Martin Luther King Jr.'s legacy?
The fact that he was able to get the message across nonviolently.
36 years ago, our nation held its first observance of Dr. King's birthday, and still today, people gather below his monument to honor and show gratitude for his life's work.
He was a person, a great humanitarian who was able to bring people together. I know we have come a long ways, but we have a long ways to go still.
Activists want national voting law changes. Specifically, the Freedom to Vote Act, which is right now stalled in the Senate.
Our vote matters. D.C. statehood matters. The filibuster matters. That's why I'm here.
King's eldest son, daughter-in-law, and granddaughter led the march, and later they joined House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and other representatives with a message of urgency.
My message to you is simple. Do not celebrate. Legislate.
The vice president with a similar message today.
And the Senate must pass this bill now.
Facing a 60-vote threshold, it's unlikely to move to the White House as quickly as they hope. But activists tell us they will still keep pushing ahead for change, grateful for Dr. King's decades-old example of walking the path with unity and peace. Reporting in Washington, D.C., Melina Wisecup, NTD News.
This was a long weekend for most Americans, but a major winter storm slammed much of the East Coast with snow, ice, and strong winds on Sunday. It is causing widespread travel disruptions and power outages. Winter storm alerts stretched over 1,000 miles from Alabama to Maine. Governors of Georgia, Virginia, North Carolina, and South Carolina all declared a state of emergency. More than 200,000 homes and businesses reported power outages Sunday and Monday. The highest snowfall was along the Appalachians and across the lower Great Lakes. The storm made its way toward New England on Sunday night, bringing snow, ice, sleet, and eventually rain. More than 3,000 domestic and international flights have been canceled, and over 8,000 flights were delayed. The Washington, D.C. area still faces icy roads and challenging conditions from the winter storm. In spite of recent cases of the CCP virus soaring, health experts say the Omicron wave hasn't even peaked yet. Right now, the U.S. is averaging more than 800,000 new cases every day.
The challenge is that the entire country is not moving at the same pace. The Omicron wave started later in other parts of the country, so we shouldn't expect a national peak in the next coming days. Next few weeks will be tough.
The White House is pushing for more access to testing. Beginning on Wednesday, you can request free rapid tests at covidtest.gov. Hospitals are struggling with critical staffing shortages, and some hospitals have had to close parts of their facilities. The Supreme Court last Thursday blocked Biden's vaccine mandate for private businesses. It led to a variety of responses from companies. Some companies like GE are dropping the requirement, while some companies like Citigroup and Google are sticking with it. Some are going further. Apple is requiring employees to get booster shots by February 15th. Meanwhile, a large anti-vaccine mandate march is planned for D.C. on the National Mall this Sunday. President Biden's vaccine mandate for larger-sized businesses has been shut down, but the issue of mandates is still a reality for many Americans. Frank Chang is an attorney with Alliance Defending Freedom who's been battling these mandates on the front lines. We spoke with Frank earlier to find out where we go from here. Frank Chang, thank you so much for joining us on the Capitol Report.
It's good to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Now, Frank, obviously the Supreme Court has just ruled yesterday on two separate issues. One of these was blocking the mandate that, was geared toward the larger sized businesses, and the other toward healthcare workers. What's the differing opinion here?
Yeah, let me just begin by saying that yesterday was a good day for freedom. Americans have very different ideas about what to do with the COVID-19 vaccines, but everyone should agree that OSHA, an occupational safety health organization, did not have the authority to mandate 84 million American workers to get vaccinated. So it was a good day. The Supreme Court made it clear that OSHA did not have congressional authorization to make that kind of mandate. The CMS mandate that you mentioned is a little different. It's administered by a different federal agency. Is supported by a different law and a different constitutional underpinning. So it was a little difficult question there for the court, even for itself. But what really came down to was that OSHA itself did not have the authority to mandate vaccination for Americans.
So how big of a win would you say this was for the Constitution, specifically in the ruling for these larger businesses?
Oh, it was a very important ruling for everyone. So it did a couple of things. The first is it obviously kept OSHA to its proper statutory boundaries, to what Congress created OSHA to be, which is a workplace agency, not a public health agency. And Justice Gorsuch also had a very important discussion in his opinion that maybe Congress should be able to do this, but maybe Congress can't even delegate away its authority to deliberate on important public health matters like this to an agency like OSHA. So yesterday was a very important day. It reminds us that federal agencies have limited authority, and when Congress wants to give them power, Congress needs to do it clearly.
So, Frank, we're hearing from people in various cities throughout the country, Boston, New York, D.C., soon to be, these city-level mandates that have been instituted by the mayors. Is there any recourse that the citizens in these cities might have in terms of these, or is that out of everybody's control at this point?
Well, the Constitution applies not only to the federal government, but also to the state and local governments as well. So every one of these mandates are different, and they're their own creatures. So the Americans will need to look at each mandate as they come and look at them individually. But what yesterday has shown is that the Supreme Court is willing to keep these entities, whether it's federal, state, or local, to their proper boundaries of authority. So yesterday we saw that the federal government was checked and it was kept within its proper boundaries. So if Americans want to challenge the state and local governments, they should look at it separately.
Now, yesterday's ruling, is this final? Is there any other way or angle that you think the administration might be able to take, or is this it?
So this lawsuit's not over yet. So although we got a temporary pause from the Supreme Court, we now go back to the lower court to finish the lawsuit to its end. But this is a good sign. The Supreme Court did say that the challengers are likely to win. So we go back with a helpful ruling saying that OSHA lacked the authority to do this, and we're going to make sure that this is litigated to the end. And we have to stay vigilant because the federal government may, again, try to do something like this. And we have to make sure that whatever agency the federal government tries to do this through, that they stay within the bounds of law.
Frank Chang, thank you.
Thank you.
Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley, is isolating after testing positive for the CCP virus on Sunday. Spokesperson Colonel David Butler announced Monday that the general is experiencing very minor symptoms and is working remotely from home. The spokesperson said in a statement that Milley is fully vaccinated and boosted. The last time Milley met with President Biden was last Wednesday, January 12th. The general had tested negative during the days before and after contacting with the president. And the Marine Corps said in a statement that Commandant General David Berger also has contracted the CCP virus. They say he's still able to work, but didn't give any other details. And Maryland Congressman David TRONE said in a tweet that he has tested positive for the CCP virus and is experiencing only mild symptoms. TRONE says he's fully vaccinated and boosted. The congressman will continue to isolate and recover at home, and he will vote by proxy next week. The Smithsonian Museums in Washington, D.C. are cutting hours of operation starting Tuesday, January 18th. They say it's due to staffing shortages. The Smithsonian had already cut back hours this year due to unprecedented staffing shortages related to COVID-19. The new schedule allows the Smithsonian to reallocate staff so that most museums can remain open on the weekend. The Smithsonian Castle will be open 7 days per week. President Biden is calling the Texas Synagogue attack that happened over the weekend an act of terror. The FBI has identified the man. We have the details. A bipartisan group of 7 U.S. senators traveled to Ukraine on Monday. They said they're sending a message to both Ukraine people and Russian President Vladimir Putin. Virginia now has its first Republican governor in over a decade. Hours after his inauguration, Glenn Youngkin removed mask mandates and banned critical race theory from all Virginia public schools. Hello and welcome back to NTD's Capitol Report. President Biden is calling the Texas Synagogue attack an act of terror that will not be tolerated. He says the Attorney General is focused on dealing with such attacks.
This was an act of terror. They should rest assured that we are focused. We are focused, the Attorney General is focused on making sure that we deal with these kinds of acts.
The 10-hour hostage standoff in Colleyville, Texas, ended Saturday evening with an FBI SWAT team rushing into the synagogue and saving 3 hostages. Another hostage had been freed earlier. The hostage taker was killed on the scene by FBI agents. On Sunday, the FBI identified the attacker as 44-year-old British national Malik Faisal Akram. British police say that they've arrested 2 teenagers in Manchester in connection with Akram, saying they remain in custody for questioning. Akram allegedly demanded the release of Pakistani neuroscientist Aifa Siddiqui, who's also known as Lady Al-Qaeda. She was convicted of trying to kill U.S. Army officers in Afghanistan and is now serving an 86-year sentence in Texas, about 15 miles away from the synagogue. Akram's brother posted on Facebook that Akram was, quote, suffering from mental health issues. Virginia's new governor, Glenn Youngkin, was sworn in on Saturday, becoming the first Republican governor in the state since 2010.
No matter who you voted for, I pledge to be your advocate, your voice, your governor.
Within hours of his inauguration, Youngkin lifted vaccine mandates for state employees and mask mandates in schools. He also banned the teaching of critical race theory in public education. On the same day, Virginia's new Attorney General, Jason Miyares, announced he is launching an investigation into Loudoun County Public Schools for allegedly covering up a sexual assault. U.S. senators from both sides of the aisle traveled to Ukraine on Monday to meet with President Vladimir Zelensky and other Ukrainian officials. The senators said the meeting was productive and they reaffirmed U.S. support. Tensions between Ukraine and Russia have been escalating, with more than 100,000 Russian troops said to have gathered at the border between the two countries. The senators say this is a matter of concern.
Our democracy is stronger when Ukrainian democracy is strong. Our freedom in the United States is compromised when Ukraine's freedom is at risk. We are connected.
After meeting with Ukrainian President Zelensky on Monday, the senators held a press conference. They said they are sending a message to both the people of Ukraine and Russian President Vladimir Putin.
We're here to deliver a clear and unequivocal message of support to the Ukrainian people.
That we support the independence and territorial integrity of Ukraine.
We also want to send a message to Vladimir Putin that he should understand that we stand with Ukraine as you think about the future, and we will hold him accountable should he threaten the sovereignty of Ukraine.
Senator Richard Blumenthal told reporters that they will give Ukraine lethal arms they need to attend their lives and livelihoods. The U.S. senators also met Ukraine's Minister of Foreign Affairs, as well as the Ministers of Defense, Interior, and Energy.